On the road against the Indiana Fever, Kahleah Copper had statistically her second best playmaking exhibition of the regular season in 2024, totaling 6 assists, 17 assist points created, both of those numbers ranking as her second best in those respects this season. However, she was able to tally her most assists for three-point makes in a game this season with 5. And I think there's a ton of value in her hitting those marks consistently, but also being able to not just hit the singles and doubles in terms of hitting the roller and pick and roll, hitting cutters and things of that nature, but being able to take the attention she's garnering where teams are committing multiple bodies to her, trying to shrink the floor on her, or really trying to collapse the paint on her in context when she has the ball in her hands, and being able to make the requisite spray passes out to the three-point line in particular to stretch the defense as they try to flatten her out and put her teammates in positions to make those plays and knock down shots on catch and shoots. I think is extremely important in process for her and her growth as her continued attention to detail and intent in playmaking. And I think naturally in alignment with that, the conversation that I was able to have with her following their win against the Chicago Sky that took place prior to the game against the Fever gave great detail and understanding in terms of the lens that she's looking at the game from. So I'm going to go ahead and let that conversation I had with her following their win against the Chicago Sky kind of be the segue into us transitioning into the film session from a couple of her assists against the Indiana Fever. Nate always talks about you and Natasha specifically getting your feet muddy in the paint and your downhill process. He mentioned that you wanted to continue to evolve in the drive and kick game and that you had some conversation with some NBA players about that particular context. Can you just kind of speak to your growth and evolution there and maybe who you spoke to kind of get guidance from?
I just think that that's the next part of my game. You know, I think me and Nate has had many conversations about me being a playmaker. I think that's important because as I continue to grow, it's just gonna get harder. Teams are, scouting and everything. So if I'm able to be a better passer, to find my teammates when they're open, that'll alleviate the pressure off of me also. So those are just conversations I've had, and just like being at the Olympics and being with the guys, we were just talking about like matchups and like different how people play, and talked about LeBron specifically. How he's just incredible. And it's a very tough cover. One, you can't guard him one-on-one. And then you're bringing help, and he's finding shooters, and he's just prolific. That's my goal. But that's who I want to be like.
All right, let's go ahead and dive into the film. First play here, we're gonna be seeing Kahleah just controlling pace, controlling tempo, in action. Just really being patient, understanding that teams are throwing multiple schemes that are like I talked about in the opening, and just being able to quickly react, assess the defense in front of her, and how to either dictate to it or counterpunch based off of what it is that she's seeing. So, like we talked about in the film session following the Chicago Sky game, Indiana Fever are also in ice covers with Kahleah, trying to keep her from getting to the middle third of the floor, also trying to get the ball out of her hands if they're able to within the scheme. What the Indiana Fever see from the Phoenix Mercury in terms of spacing is them getting a clear cut here from the 45 from Kiki Herbert-Harrigan. And that's important to know here because of what it's going to do is ultimately open up a gap here for Kahleah as she ultimately comes off of this pick and roll with Natasha Mack. So you see the angle flip. Ultimately, she tries to set the backside screen initially. That doesn't work as Kahleah Copper's matchup does a solid job in terms of just staying in front of the ball, keeping it contained enough. However, we see the angle flip. It turns into a flat angle screen, which is a coverage solution against ice coverage to allow for the ball handler to get downhill, and not just get downhill, but get downhill and engage the opposing center or whoever it is that's guarding a screener. Job well done from Natasha Mack. Her detail and screening is just so invaluable for this team because it allows for them to have some consistency in the actions that they're running and the effectiveness of those actions when Brittney Griner is not on the floor, who we all know is an all-world type of screener. So great job and great rep here and value shown from Natasha Mack, freeing Kahleah Copper of the original matchup. She's able to get downhill, like I said, engage X5, the opposing center. But this is the important part here. And then I'll let this kind of flow through in real time, in real speed, so you can kind of see it happening. But Kahleah Copper, coming off of the screens, her pace has so improved in pick and roll. I felt like that was one of her biggest growths last season, that she got to handling the ball more in pick and roll and being one of the play starters and not just always being like the play finisher in terms of scoring, being able to initiate and set others up. This is a lot of it. Understanding tempo and pace in different contexts of pick and roll, being able to be effective and impactful in that, understanding the why in terms of the different paces and speeds that she's playing at. She's able to come off, engage the big, but past just engaging a big. Also going to see in the strong side corner, which is another reason why the clear cut from Kiki Herbert-Harrigan is important. That now puts Diana Taurasi one pass away. And this is just a can't be right scenario for the defense, as if Kelsey Mitchell, who's in coverage-wise, they call it 50-100, 50% committed to the ball, but 100% committed to the corner, just to kind of try to deter a driving lane from Kahleah Copper on the strong side, but also not overcommitted to where you're conceding to obviously one of the best three-point shooters of all time in the Diana Taurasi. This is just the layers within the actions that the Phoenix Mercury can run and the manipulation of their spacing to where defenders just can't be right. Kelsey Mitchell is not wrong in her coverage here. It's just the fact that it's Kahleah Copper with the ball, her playmaking growth, and Diana Taurasi being a catch and shoot from one pass away and being this close in proximity in addition to that. So all of the feel and everything we talked about with the reps and attention to detail and intent and understanding of the why for Kahleah Copper in her playmaking growth is all seen on display here. You see her engage the opposing big, X5. Also get Kelsey Mitchell just to play on the end steps just enough. You can already see how the weight is committed towards the ball as Kahleah Copper times up making this pass. And then the last bit in it, you can do all of that, but if the pass is not accurate, the player that's in catch and shoot is not going to get up the most accurate and most rhythmic of attempts at the basket. Kahleah Copper also nails that part in terms of hitting her target right in the chest, right in the shooting pocket. Diana Taurasi is able to just no dip, catch it, let it fly. And this is all happening well before Kelsey Mitchell can get up an effective contest, advantage Phoenix Mercury, and they score here. I'm going to go ahead and let this one kind of flow through fully so you can kind of see Kahleah Copper's reading and reacting in real time. Just good on good on good right there from Kahleah. Manipulating, pulling all the strings and pick and roll, the pace, the tempo, the hold, understanding how to hold the attention of defenders, and then making a pass to ultimately execute within the advantage that she's creating just by having the ball in her hands. And then here, I want to start this one a little bit earlier than just in the half court, because these cross-court passes where Natasha Cloud is finding Kahleah Copper early in offense, whether it's in transition or for a secondary break, is important because of the way that it tilts the court in terms of giving Kahleah Copper a little bit of an advantage before the defense can fully be set. And I think it's extremely clever from Natasha Cloud to continue to seek these things out. It's something that I'll certainly be asking her about next time I get a chance to. But these things, like these little things, are just extremely important, especially with the major growth that Kahleah Copper is showing and ascending into in terms of her playmaking. We're going to see another rep here of just that. You see the cross-court skip, not necessarily transition, not going at a breakneck speed, but definitely a secondary break. Just getting into the offense a little bit earlier, a little bit quicker than normal, playing off of a stop. You see them crossing the half-court line with 21 seconds. And obviously Kahleah Copper just kind of setting up shop, getting into some side pick and roll here. So we're going to ultimately see, no side pick and roll, but we see what they're setting up for, which is something they get into on consistency, is their wide action. So you see the wide screen being set here from Brittney Griner for Natasha Cloud. A lot of times this will flow into a double screen for the Phoenix Mercury, but because of the way the spacing is manipulated, with the Mercury having 3 players above the break and then having 2 players stashed deep into the corners, there's a lot of real estate for Kahleah Copper to kind of assess in terms of gaps to drive. And with how she sees her primary defender here kind of stepping up, and you see the angle and the body language, there's opportunity for her to get to her left hand if she times it up well, which is exactly what we're going to see here. But we're going to pause it right here And we're just going to watch Sophie Cunningham as we see her relocating to the weak side corner, deep into that corner. This is important to note because the Phoenix Mercury, and the way that they can manipulate space and the way that the defenders have to kind of tilt to kind of take away things and kind of load up in gaps and tag rollers and all of that stuff, naturally will concede them plenty of opportunities at three-point attempts from the corners if they seek them out appropriately. And to that point, the Phoenix Mercury post-Olympic break already have 18 three-point attempts from the corners in particular. That's more than any other stretch over the regular season, over a 2-game stretch that they've had over the course of the season. In addition to that, their 10 makes also is the most makes that they've had in any 2-game stretch over the regular season in 2024 as well. That's another thing that I'll be kind of speaking with Nate Tibbetts about, because I feel like there's an intent behind that, and I think they feel like there's some meat on the bone in terms of their shot profile and getting more high volume and high quality attempts from there. Going back to the point being, I bring that up. Looking at Kahleah Copper, we talked about the wide action that the Indiana Fever are kind of loading up and anticipating, and also the spacing template from the Phoenix Mercury here with 2 players deep into the corners. Kiki kind of compromises the spacing a little bit as she's looking like she's going to try to go and set a small screen here. No need for it. We're ultimately going to see the Indiana Fever get into a peel switch as Kahleah Copper is able to break leverage and get downhill. You see Nalissa Smith peeling off of the strong corner to try to cut off Kahleah Copper's drive. But Kahleah is just too slippery, too slithery, and just too elusive with her live dribble as she gets downhill. See her kind of snake back, get it back to her inside hand after she breaks leverage from the initial defender to shield the ball away. But it's the intention behind the timing at which she decides to go. She sees Sophie Cunningham cross, and now she sees Sophie Cunningham's matchup as the low man, is a low defender from the opposite side. The timing at which she decides to go, the ability to snake and shield the ball away from the peel switch from Nalissa Smith, all with the intent of engaging the lower defender here, leaves them with no rotation over to Sophie Cunningham because of, like I mentioned, the action that's anticipated that they're getting into up top with the wide action flowing into a double screen for her. It leaves them with no help to help her in terms of the Indiana Fever defense. Sophie Cunningham, one of the best corner three-point shooters and generally one of the best three-point shooters on the Phoenix Mercury, is going to be left wide open. And this is the growth from Kahleah Copper and her playmaking. The intention, the understanding of the why behind when she's deciding to go. She's not just driving and getting paint touches and playing at multiple speeds just looking to score now. Now she's evolved in her process to where she's playing at those multiple speeds and really able to kind of camouflage her scoring to pull the defense in, tilt the court, and then play make off of that for her teammates. Advantage Phoenix Mercury again. A high shot quality, wide open corner three-point attempt from one of their best shooters. No contest in any capacity coming. Sophie Cunningham laces it up, knocks it down for 3. And then this last rep here, my favorite passing rep from Kahleah Copper in this game. She's going to be in side pick and roll here. And we're just going to kind of let it flow through a little bit, and you'll kind of see the dominoes fall in her favor. So we see another smart angle flip from Natasha Mack. Again, talking about the invaluable screening that she brings in the minutes where Brittney Griner is off the floor. You still get that value in that pop and pick and roll. She might not be the roller or get the attention that Brittney Griner does in pick and roll context, but her screening impact is there. It is there, and it's of high value for this team. You see the angle flip here. She's going flat again. Allows for Kahleah Copper to get towards the outer third of the floor and also engage who the screener's defender is here. And you can kind of see Kahleah Copper. We talked about her pace and pick and roll being an important growth point for her earlier in this film session. We're going to see it again here. Comes off of the screen. Great job walling off and holding on that screen from Natasha Mack. And now it's Kahleah Copper's job to do her work with the live dribble. Comes off, does a good job holding her initial matchup, and then playing in the separation, forcing what should have been a late switch here, but it's not. But she's able to just engage X5, the opposing center, in the empty corner. And in addition to that, as you see Kahleah start to kind of gain leverage getting downhill, and she kind of starts playing with her cadence of play a little bit, you can also see her pulling in the low man and also pulling in the high eye defender, who's going to be Caitlin Clark. who's going to ultimately be responsible for kind of tagging the roller. All of that to say, watching Kahleah Copper's pace, also look at her eyes and watch how she's kind of scanning the floor. You can see here, she gets her eye on the low man, understanding that there's going to be extra help if she was to try to mash the gas and go baseline, and she would have to anticipate a pass or being able to kind of split there. Also gets her eyes around, as you see Natasha Mack getting into her role, and identifies where the tag is coming from the nail. So you see Caitlin Clark playing on her insteps, getting to the tag on the roller like I mentioned. There's a little bit of overhelp, as you can kind of see the lace switch that I mentioned is ultimately going to kind of be executed on. All of that to say, this pass, the timing, the assessing of the court, the cadence of play and pick and roll from Kahleah Copper, again, this is compounding just good on good on good, really speaking to the growth, like I mentioned, the attention to detail and the intent that she spoke to me with in the conversation following the Chicago Sky game in terms of her playmaking off the attention she garners. You can see the reps just adding up in real time, and it's not all literally just the on-court reps, but the mental reps and the film session reps. Just adding up in real time. She makes an accurate, timely, and appropriate pass to get it over the outstretched arms of Caitlin Clark as she's playing on her insteps, times it up perfectly as she's stepping over to tag the roller. This is just a great pass. Look at where it hits Natasha Cloud. Right between the eyes. Right between the eyes. You can't make a better pass. You can't put better pace on this pass. And you can't have timed it any better than Kahleah Copper did here. Advantage Phoenix Mercury, and then obviously a big point of growth within all of the playmaking growth from Kahleah Copper is also Natasha Cloud, playing ready to catch and shoot in these scenarios, doing so with confidence, and then executing within it. Knocks it down at a crucial juncture of the game for the Phoenix Mercury. These reps for Kahleah Copper are adding up in real time. Continue to keep an eye on it, and I'm sure it's something that's going to add a different realm to the process in terms of layering for the Phoenix Mercury in the half court. And if she continues to grow as a passer in this context, in particular in pick and roll, but just generally speaking, when she feels the attention that she's garnering, that's a whole nother level that this Phoenix Mercury offense can kind of grow to over this last 16 games left before the playoffs come around.